Welcome to Good Money Moves, the show where we share financial tips and advice to help you feel financially empowered. I'm Jenna Taubel, and with me today is Danielle Sommerfeldt, our community lending manager here at First Alliance Credit Union, and we are going to be diving into all the things you need to know if you're thinking about starting a business. But before we dive into that topic, Danielle, why don't you share just a little bit about yourself and your role here at the credit union?
Yeah, I'm so excited. You guys, I'm so passionate about businesses, so this is like the best time. This is going to be a great time. I am Danielle Sommerfeldt. I have been with First Alliance for a little over 6 years. I moved into this role back in April of 2024. So been doing this for a couple of months now. And I'm really excited because I have always been passionate about small businesses. Actually just business in general. But I love to see a business get started and then have them become successful and just grow with them. So very excited about this topic today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. And I'm excited to talk about it too. I think starting a business can be really scary, but so exciting at the same time, and there's so much to think about. So there's so many different ways we could go with this conversation today, but let's just start with like the most basic level of, if you have an idea for a business, how do you really turn that idea into an actual business plan? And like, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And that's where a lot of people come to us at the beginning right away. They're like, I have this idea, I want to do this. What do I do? So we have a lot of companies in town too that we will partner with that can help us to actually create a business plan, because there's a lot that can go into starting a business. And to your point, it can be a little overwhelming at first. But we like to think about everything. So while we will help you with the finances and getting your accounts open and all that stuff, we also want to make sure you're set up for success. So if you have a idea on starting something, we'll usually direct you to what we call SBDC here in town. They're a great company that we work with. They'll help you create a business plan, which makes you really think about what your project and your plan is. They will even look at, how much will you pay for insurance on this property or this plan and idea that you have. Talk about what other items you might need. Do you need tables, chairs, what type of equipment, and inventory, just a bunch of different stuff that they'll help you with, and then that really helps us with the financing to make that decision in the end. But
so lots to think about.
So much to think about.
Depending on what kind of business you're trying to start. And so the Small Business Development Center is what you were describing. Yeah. And I love that we have one of those locally for small businesses, because without that solid starting point and without having really thought through all the components, you can really almost set yourself up for failure as a business owner very quickly, because you didn't take into account how much inventory you need to start a storefront, or how much those property taxes are really going to cost on this investment property that you're thinking about. So I love that we have that partnership and that you brought that up, because I think that's a huge component to success for entrepreneurs, is having that solid plan, that strategy in place.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So you kind of mentioned a handful of components that go into a business plan and some of the things to start thinking through. Is there anything else, like if you had a business owner come and want to sit in front of you and say, is my business plan viable? What are some of the things that you would be looking for to be included, or things that they should be thinking through before they come and like sit down with you and your team?
Yeah. So a lot of the time what we'll look for is for them to have a business plan. So that's something that we're going to look for on the lending side. We would require them to have a business plan if the business isn't already up and running. And then if we also take into account a lot what the person's credit actually looks like as well. So you don't have to have your business account established, but that will be something that we will want to do. But we will also look at them individually to say, maybe your business is going to be new, but how have you done financially in the past?
Sure.
What does your credit look like? What does your payment history look like? Because at the end of the day, we'll open the business and the business will be our entity, but you as the individual will be held liable for how that business does. So we look into the individual as well.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think one thing that a lot of new entrepreneurs, like brand new business owners, do is they will not separate their business and personal finances right away.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the importance of having that separate business account from like a personal account where you manage all your personal finances separate from your business, and some of the benefits of making sure that that stays that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. So there's a lot of different business types, which I think people don't really know or understand. So there's a business type that you could be what's called like a DBA. So you're doing business as a specific type of business. And so, you know, if you do that, then you don't have to necessarily like file an EIN number, which is what would be a tax ID number for a business.
Okay.
You can operate that as yourself. You could be Jenna Taubel doing business as blank.
Okay.
Or vice versa, there's an opportunity for you to do like an LLC. There's sole member LLC, there's a just regular LLC, partnerships. There's a lot of different things that people should be really looking into depending on what type of business they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And I always will tell you, please talk to your accountant.
Yes.
And determine which option is best for you, because I don't know that answer. I can obviously give you some tips and some ideas of what I've seen in the past, but your accountant would be definitely the one to go with that.
To help you figure out what business type to register as.
Yes.
So you mentioned the EIN number. Can you just explain a little bit more about what that actually is, and does every business need to have one, or is it a nice to have?
That's a great question. So you are not always required to file for an EIN number. It's just something you can file for to tie the business to a different income tax ID number.
Okay.
So it's not always required. Again, I would ask your accountant, just depending on how you plan to set up the business, would be beneficial to know and to understand. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, I mean, what we do see, just out of example, a lot of DBAs that we have, the people who are doing business as something, they just file under their own personal taxes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are seeing a lot more EIN numbers with like LLCs, which generally seem to be very common that we work with a lot. But then when you get larger, like corporations and partnerships, you'll see EIN numbers.
Sure. So just, it kind of depends on the business structure, whether or not an EIN makes sense.
Agreed.
So you mentioned LLC, so Limited Liability Corporation, I think is what that stands for.
Limited Liability Company.
Yep. Company, yeah. There we go.
Good
So having those different business structures, you know, you mentioned there's tax implications. I imagine there's also legal implications, probably to some of those too. And I don't expect you to be able to speak to all of those, but, you know, any information that you do know kind of about some of those differences and things that maybe business owners should be thinking about as they're thinking about getting that business up and running when it comes to business structure.
Yeah. There's something to be said about that too from, like a protection. So when you have something filed under an LLC, let's say you're in construction, and you have an LLC, that can cover you personally from having any liabilities against any issues that would happen. Mm-hmm. So if you did something and water started leaking, or something fell down and broke and all this stuff, and your company then, the LLC, would then be liable for that, not necessarily you as the individual.
So there's just some protections in place. And so, so if you were some kind of construction company or subcontractor, an LLC maybe would make sense in that case, just to provide yourself a little extra protection for your personal income in that case. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
We kind of touched a little bit on, you know, keeping your business accounts separate from your personal accounts. But what are some of like the different types of bank accounts that businesses can or should consider accessing when they are starting to get solidified as a business outside of their personal accounts?
Yeah. Well, we offer, so like here when we have new businesses that open up, we always start with the savings account and the checking account. Checking account's always the best for you from an operations standpoint. You can do like your bill pay directly through there. You can get onto your business online banking and see all of your accounts. You can transact. You can still write checks. People still write checks. And you can utilize it the same way you use your personal accounts. It's just under your business. So I encourage people to do that. And then as soon as they're ready, open up some sort of business money market so that they can actually start housing some cash away, because it doesn't fail that there's always going to be something that will pop up, especially as a new business. Having some sort of capital account for, anything that needs to happen, just saving and trying to prepare for your next steps or any things that might come up, because it's bound to happen.
Yeah. So, just like in your personal life, you want to have that emergency fund.
Yes.
Businesses need to have something similar to that for those rainy day moments, or for those moments where, they didn't get paid the invoice they needed to get paid, or, they got to pay your staff still, and those types of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me to my next question, which is maybe on the other side of the equation, and that is the debt side for businesses, loans.
Yeah.
Like, is that something that new business owners should be thinking about out the gate? Is that something that we see a lot of, like, brand new small business owners seeking, is loans to fund their business and grow? And, like, tell me a little bit about that and what that needs to look like. What should they be thinking about if that's the avenue they're going down?
Yeah, great question. So this has really come up a lot in the last couple of months. So First Alliance, our goal for this coming year is the First Start, Fresh Start. And that is part of business too. So we are really looking into what does it look like for us to support small businesses. Personally too, like right now I'm working on an application where they are a brand new business. And so same thing I talked about earlier, we're checking into like their personal credit, because their business hasn't started. It's not off the ground yet. They went to SBDC. They got their business plan. They've done everything we've asked for them to do so far. And now we're in the part of we're looking at their personal credit to say, okay, how have they paid people in the past? They were doing this job previously, but now they're going to go out on their own. So we take a lot of that into account. So it's not a hard no, because we're willing to look at something. But a lot of other financials, if you go to them to look for a business loan, they're going to say, we need 3 years of tax returns for the business, and we're going to need 3 years of tax returns for you personally, before they're even going to entertain any sort of option of even looking at something.
Sure.
So
Interesting.
it is interesting.
So people have credit scores.
People have credit scores.
Do businesses have credit scores?
Businesses do not have credit scores. In the state of Minnesota, we're not required to report business loans to people's credit bureaus. So, some business owners too, we will ask them to fill out what's called like an application, a personal financial statement, and then a business debt schedule, because the state of Minnesota doesn't require you to report those to the credit bureau. So we got to ask, like, hey, what types of loan does your business have? Because that's not required to be reported.
Sure. So just as you're kind of working through whether or not the loan that the business owner is seeking, and the purpose behind it, it's really just taking a look at, okay, well, what does your financial situation for your business actually look like? Since you don't have that credit score and that credit report to rely on, you have to still gather all that information, because we would never want to put a small business owner in a position where they have so much debt that they can't pay it off based on their revenue.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
You mentioned a couple of documents.
Yes.
What, a personal...
So yeah, we would have them do an application, which is just us getting the information of what they're looking for, essentially. And then a personal financial statement.
Yes.
So that document is one that we have internal. It's actually very common throughout all financials, but it asks you about, where do you have your personal checking, savings, any investments, 401ks, life insurance policies, because then again, it goes over who you as the individual is and what you have for like a guarantee on that loan.
Sure.
If we needed to come back, if the business were to ever default or potentially even go out of business, unfortunately, we would look at the borrower personally on how they could guarantee that loan.
Sure. So in a situation maybe where the loan doesn't make sense for whatever reason, it doesn't make sense yet, what are some other ways that a small entrepreneur, small business owner could get funds to get their business up off the ground outside of a loan?
Yeah, well, there are some other options too, like with some community companies. They will actually look at doing some funding and some financing. on their own. Outside of that, I just really encourage people to consider a plan. So think about it. Maybe today isn't the day, but how can we do this in the next 12 months? How can we do this in the next 2 to 3 years? Get a plan in place to say, I need to have X by Y. Like put a plan in place for yourself to say, how am I going to make this be an option?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you see a lot of business owners like using some of their personal savings or, using assets like maybe their home as like to pull out equity to start businesses and things like that? Yes. Is that common, and is it recommended to do things like that?
That's a very great question. It's very common. Lately, we've been seeing that quite a lot, that people are using their own primary residence, potentially do like home equities. We'll do a line of credit, or we'll do some sort of term loan on their property to get some cash out for them to start a business. It's very common. Mm-hmm. It is common. We've done auto loans, taken some equity out of people's autos to give them some financing. And then we do have the ability to do some unsecured. But yeah, from the personal side, we do see that people are willing to put up some personal collateral to get some funding to start their business.
Awesome. So there's a variety of ways to get started. There's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. So even if, they come in and you're like, a loan just doesn't make sense right now, we can still look at other options and maybe help get a plan in place for down the road in 6 months, come back if you've done X, Y, and Z, and we can look at it again.
Yeah.
So tell me a little, maybe a member story. I know you are so passionate about this, and you do such a good job with our business owners. Without naming names.
Yes.
Who's your favorite story?
Oh, I have so many. I don't know that I have so many. Just recently we helped someone who opened a business, and we were able to actually go visit the business, which was really fun. I'm very passionate about that too. Like, I will follow through with you, so once we close our loan, we're not done. So I went to go visit them, and while we were there, like, just the look on their face, they literally said, like, I wouldn't be here right now without you. Yeah. And so that was super exciting. Or like even the other day I was out for dinner, and I had a business member come up to me and they're like, oh, this is my banker. And I'm like, oh, I love that. Like, I love that I can help people. And even, unfortunately we do have to tell people no sometimes, and that happens. But I had someone the other day was like, this is the best denial I've ever had. And I was like, well, you're welcome. But I think, there's just opportunity everywhere. So yeah.
And then it's a no today is a no today. It's not a no tomorrow, 6 months from now, if you're going to follow through with the things that we're coaching you to do.
And that's what we gave him. We gave him a list of thoughts, a list of ideas, and some other things to go work on. And he's like, okay, I'll get to that right away. And so that was fun. Yeah.
That's such a rewarding opportunity to see that come to fruition and be alongside our business members for that. Is there anything else that you feel like someone who's looking to start a business should really know and think about?
I would just say, don't be afraid to just get started and think about, don't be afraid to start asking questions. So again, you might have a really big idea and be like, oh, this is just never going to be possible. It might be possible, but maybe there's something, maybe someone's already created something for you to get you started. So come talk to your financial advisor. Go talk to anybody at SBDC. Collider is another company here in town that is just phenomenal. We have a lot of different companies also that I'm not even naming right now that are in Rochester. Rochester is such a great place to start a small business, and the whole community is willing to help you. So I would say just don't hesitate to ask if you have an idea and want to get something started.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. This has been awesome. And I know that there is so much more we could talk about when it comes to running a business, starting a business, financing a business. There's just so many things we could talk about, but we are out of time.
Okay.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been Good Money Moves. Again, I'm Jenna Taubel. With me is Danielle Sommerfeldt from First Alliance Credit Union. And if you want to learn more about starting a small business or any of the tools and resources we talked about today, you can visit our website at firstalliancecu.com. And in the meantime, stay financially empowered. We'll see you next time.